Hello my love, it's Rachel here, and today I'm going to share with you about healing the masculine and some tarot and oracle decks that I use for that purpose. Now, I've been serving as a spiritual mentor for men since 2013, and I never had one woman coming to me and saying, Rachel, help me to understand the masculine. Help me to work with my masculine. No. All of them, they would come to me to work with the feminine. And of course, that is because that's my work. But what happens, in my opinion as well, is that we live in a society that sees the masculine. Well, the masculine is the standard. So we see the masculine as desirable, as strong, as successful. And we learned to see the feminine as weak, crazy, undesirable. And especially as women, and especially in our professional lives, that's what we learned. Especially those of us who went to great universities, huge universities, then we decided to go to the corporate world and work for big companies. That's what we would find there back then. Now, I am away from that world for several years now, so I don't know how things are working out now, but something tells me that it didn't change that much. But what happens is that in my case specifically, so it was not something my parents taught me, but when I went to university and so on, I started developing that idea of success as being like going to the best university, then finding the best work, the best job, then climb a ladder in the corporate world and be successful, and everything would work out and I would be happy, right? And in that process, of course, and when I think about the feminine, now it's important to say that here, of course, we know already that masculine doesn't equal women and feminine doesn't equal men. But of course, when we talk about it, we do have these levels and these aspects that are different. But when I talk about the feminine specifically, for me it's very important to think about cycles. Our cycle is different from a man's cycle. You know what I mean? A woman's cycle is different from a man's cycle. And that's something that I strongly disrespected in my life. So when I was there working the company, every month I would feel a little more tired, I would have a headache. So the solution that the doctor found with me, the doctor then suggested that, and I found it was amazing, was to just stop my cycle. So that would not prevent me from working and have the same, be so efficient, right? And so I would say that was a very unhealthy relationship with my masculine. It was almost like my masculine trying to control and possess my feminine and even erase it, right? And I think many of us, I'm not going to say most of us, but probably many of us, we went through some kind of experience with men in our lives. And yes, the way we see men will be related to the way we are going to experience the masculine inside us. There's some relationship in that, in my experience. So what happened to me was that, so many of us, we've experienced some level of abuse. Maybe abuse, maybe physical abuse, maybe emotional abuse, some kind of abuse that we went through or we experienced as. And in my case, it started when I was 6 years old. So at school, a group of boys, they would come around me and they would hit me until I would fall on the floor, and they would still kick me, saying, we're doing this because you're Japanese and therefore you're ugly, you're horrible, so you deserve it. And after that experience, even though I reacted, and I can share about it another day, but that left some kind of wound inside of me. So I became a very shy kid. I didn't want it to be seen. Because, of course, being seen, I would say, okay, being seen equals being hurt. So that's why, for me, for example, being here on YouTube, I've been on YouTube since 2008, sharing videos and blogs and so on, but especially in videos, it's huge for me, right? Because it is allowing myself to be seen in my original language, and now here in English, being seen, being judged, being criticized, right? But back then, that changed for me. Like this fear of being seen changed for me because I had the desire to express myself. So it was stronger than this fear. So it overcame this fear of being seen. But I never healed. I've never healed that properly. It happened later on. It started happening later on. But all these situations that we go through, and then there's the abuse and so on, all these experiences, they end up, well, we are going to have different experiences. I'm sharing mine here, but like, for example, you feel like you have to become super strong, and I don't depend on anybody else, I can take care of myself alone, and even sometimes seeing men as something less. And healing the masculine, then, for me personally, it goes through this experience of remembering what we went through with men, with boys and whatever. And for me as well, it is about connecting with my father and my father's lineage. So my father, my grandfather, and so on. I was blessed because I had a fantastic father, a protective father, amazing father. Not perfect at all, but a great father. But that's not the reality of many of us, right? Many of us, we didn't have a great fathers and so on. So that's another thing for us to think about. That being said, now I'm going to share with you, and I will start at the decks, and then I will start with the oracle decks. The first oracle deck I've ever had to work with the masculine, I think it was the first, okay? But I believe it was the Gods and Titans, this one here by Stacey DeMarco. This deck is all about Gods and Titans, right? Now, it turned out it's not completely my favorite deck to work with the masculine, but it's a deck that I use, especially in my altar, when I want to connect with some of these. Doesn't it look like that actor? I think the Aquaman. But it is a deck that I work with, yeah, especially on my altar, I just said. But my husband, he really likes this deck. So Stacey, she has this deck, Gods and Titans, and she has the Goddesses and Sirens. And my husband and I mean, at some periods, you know, we would get together on Monday mornings and draw one card for us for the week. So this deck is very helpful as a basic general deck to work with the masculine, because of course we have lots of gods here, different gods, different pantheons, so it can be an interesting deck, easy to find as well. Another deck that I work with the masculine, I shared here already in a video, how I work with the masculine and the feminine using the Queen of Moon and Queen of Sun by Stacey DeMarco as well. This one here is the Queen of Sun Oracle, and I connect this deck with my masculine energy and my clients as well. I use these in clients' readings a lot. It's a beautiful deck. It's a very sun energy deck, of course. It is the Queen of Sun, right? And for me, when I work with the masculine and the feminine, I like to work with Moon and Sun energies a lot. Sun energy is something that I don't work as much as I work with the Moon energy. And I think one of the reasons as well is because my Moon is in Cancer, so it's interesting for you to understand your Moon and so on when it comes to finding out if you are more like a person that connects more with the Sun energy or Moon energy. If you connect more with the Sun energy, this one here is a very interesting deck. Now, this is the deck that brought me some huge aha moments. And this is the Call of the Morrigan Oracle, When this deck came out, I bought it right away. Don't ask me why. I've never studied about the Morrigan, never worked with the Morrigan. But I decided to buy this deck and I didn't know why. And when I drew the first card, I found out, right? So it was one of the most powerful opportunities for me to heal the masculine. And it was with this deck here. So I pulled the first card and I read the message, and something inside me, synchronicity, just popped up and screamed like, it's the moment to take care of that specific part of your masculine wounds. Now, this is a deck that I don't work with. I don't work with this deck intuitively because I don't know actually the story of the Morrigan. I still didn't feel the call to study it deeply, but I will. And even though she is a goddess, not a god, for me it feels like she's powerful. This deck's a powerful deck to work with, heal the masculine wound, work with the masculine and heal the masculine wound. Now we are going to the tarot decks. So one tarot deck that I feel that is beautiful to work with the masculine is this one here. It is the Spirit Within Tarot by Stephen Bray. This deck is interesting because I don't see people talking a lot about this deck in the community. It's a great deck because he worked with shadows here. So we don't see faces, nothing like that. And for me, it feels like a great deck to work with the masculine. Because our wounds or whatever it is, I'm talking, this video is about healing the masculine wound, but these decks are not only to heal the masculine wound in a sense that you have to have a trauma, but it is about, making peace and sitting and talking to our masculine. How can we work together? And this is one of those decks because the fact that they are faceless and so on allows me to see my own masculine or these other people that represented the masculine in my life. So it is a deck that is very, for me it feels like it's very comfortable. And even though we only have shadows, it's a very compassionate deck for me in my experience. Now the next deck's an old deck in my collection, a deck that I never connected with, which is the Fountain Tarot. The Fountain Tarot is a deck that I would never connect with, and I never knew why. I never could put a finger on that feeling, that experience with this deck until I found out that it is because it's very cold for some reason. I experienced this deck as very cold. I think it's beautiful, but cold. You know what I mean? And then later on, after a few years, I have this deck in my collection for many years, but you see I don't use it a lot, it's like new. And I was thinking, I always thought this deck would leave my collection until I found out that it was interesting to work with the masculine with this deck. And specifically with that sense of abandonment, sense of being left. You know what I mean? The coldness, the lack of feelings, unlike this other deck here, it is about the lack of compassion, the lack of compassion. And don't get me wrong, I think this artwork's very nice, but I completely don't like this deck. I don't like this deck, but she's perfect to work with that aspect of the masculine. That experience of the coldness, and as I told you, and the resentment, of course, and the abandonment, okay? Being left behind, or I can't find a better word than lack of compassion, and these words that I'm sharing with you. Now, these three decks here are completely the ones that I work with the masculine in a very healthy way, in its very healthy nature. these 3 decks, they are connected with my father and my father's lineage, let's say, right? So the first one that I'm going to share here with you, which one? Now, these 3, because I have another deck that is my father's voice. So these decks here, they're not only my father's voice, I feel like they are masculine. They have masculine energy, so you could work with other, in other ways. Sorry, guys. But for me, they remind my father's lineage. One deck that is perfect for me to work with the masculine is the Da Vinci Enigma Tarot. I don't know, I feel, I'm not saying that he was like this, but I experienced Da Vinci as the healthy, the creative, the abundant masculine. That's who Da Vinci is for me in my experience. When I think about him, I'm not saying he was exactly like that, I'm talking about him as an archetype, let's say, for me. And this deck here, it's not inspired on his artwork. It is a collection of his artwork, sketches, right? And this deck has such a beautiful masculine energy that is not cold at all, but is very earth-based, in my opinion. And it's interesting because sometimes when you think about the elements, for me, all the elements, they are both masculine and feminine, but when you think about the elements, usually they're classified water and air, water and earth as feminine, air and fire as masculine. And for me, I can see both the female and male very connected to the earth, So this deck here is going to be, actually, yeah, 2 of them here is going to be the healthy masculine connected to the earth. This one is it's the guy here himself, right? Leonardo da Vinci as the magician. So this deck's beautiful to work with the masculine. If you're looking for just one tarot deck to work with the masculine, for me it would be the Da Vinci Enigma Tarot, but not everybody is going to connect with this artwork. So it's important that you go, you are going to find online here on YouTube some videos showing all the decks, all the cards. Go through a flip through and see how you feel. This one here is the Botticelli Tarot. That for me is a beautiful masculine deck. So my father's father came from Italy, so I do feel like the masculine, for me, I experience it a lot with that kind of energy. And Da Vinci and Botticelli, they were Italian, right? Now this deck here is more like the abundant and prosperous masculine when I work with this deck. That's what I feel. I really enjoy this deck. I feel like it is, you know, that more like a refined masculine. Maybe the Da Vinci Tarot is more like it feels more like my father, because my father was a man like almost like a farmer, right? An electricist and all those kind of manual work. And so the Da Vinci feels even more for me, but the Botticelli feels a lot as a masculine deck, and I wanted to share with you because I don't know, maybe you can connect with this deck. And especially for me, it's powerful when you want to work with the masculine energy when it comes to prosperity. I think it's a beautiful deck. For that, of course, we have all this gold going on here. And this deck here, Folkloric Forest Tarot. This is new, came to my collection this year. And I started looking at this deck and I saw, okay, it is the masculine. I felt like my father as well, but less than the other decks. And for you, if you're looking for a deck to work with the masculine, this is another beautiful choice as well. For me, it feels like the hunter aspect of the masculine, the one that walks in the forest, that is able to is able to live in the nature, you know what I mean? It is a beautiful deck for that, a powerful, look at this. It's a powerful deck for that. So if you're looking for a tarot in general to work with the masculine, if you enjoy the artwork, it would be a mass market one, the Da Vinci Enigma Tarot. Now, this one here is an indie deck. I don't know if it's still available. Let me see here. The name of the creator. I don't know if it's still available. Lennox Reese. This is a great deck for that as well, to work with the masculine. And it's because I like almost all my decks, I use them to work with more than one purpose, right? So for me, it feels like this deck's beautiful to work with the earth, and so the earth element for both male and female. Okay, I feel like for both, it's a powerful deck. But I've been using it with the masculine. That's what I've been actually feeling, because I have feelings, right? When it comes to work with our decks, or my decks, at least for me, it's like that. I have feelings. So I feel like that's what I should do with this deck right now. I feel like that's another thing that I should do. And so on. So let me know in the comments down below what decks you use to work with the masculine. And I hope this video inspired you to look a little bit into your masculine and understand how we can. Sometimes we have the tyrant inside us, you know, the critique. He's always there criticizing us and so on. How can we bring that part of ourselves and make peace with that part of ourselves and healing our relationship as well with others? That's part of the process, isn't it? Thank you so much for being here, my dear. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for your existence. Sending you lots of love.